TEKE or TEKE is a Japanese urban legend about the ghost of a young woman or schoolgirl who is said to have fallen onto a railway line where her body was cut into half by a train. She is an onryo or a vengeful spirit who lurks in urban areas and around train stations at night. Since she has no lower body, she travels on either hands or elbows, dragging her upper torso and making a scratching or tick-tick like sound. If she encounters an individual, she will chase them and slice them in half at the torso, killing them in such a way that mimics her own disfigurement. The story goes around like, there was a girl named Shiho. When she was about to leave for school, her mother called to her and asked her to bring a cake, a birthday cake for his father's birthday. She thought, of course, it had to be this week of all the weeks. The week she and some of her classmates had been assigned to clean the school drains after the lessons. They were bully. Still, she managed to do the work. She took the cake and went to the train station. It was rush hours. With no hands free to hold on to anything or anyone, she fell right into the path of the train track. Her body was cut in half. When her schoolmates were alone in the station, they heard a sound tick-tick. She slowly came into vision and cut them in half from the torso with her scythe. This is what she does to anyone alone in the subway station. Now let's hear a story, which might be true. Or is it?
I don't usually ride on the subway, especially not at night, and especially not when I'm alone. A perfect storm of misfortune struck me, however, placing me in the exact situation, more or less against my will. I got out of work late, and after everyone else got to go home, my car wouldn't start because I left the headlights on all day like an idiot. And my phone was dead, of course. Catching a ride home with someone else wasn't an option, and neither was calling a taxi or some sort of driving service. Riding the subway home seemed like my only option, though I really did try to think of anything else I could do in order to avoid going down the tunnels at night. I put all my useless fears of the subway, mostly founded on stupid news stories I watch too late at night, or silly social media posts that have no foundation in reality aside, and found my way to the nearest subway station. It was particularly dark last night, the street lights barely penetrating the pitch black blanket of the late evening that was suffocating the city. I shuddered walking down the subway stairs. Something fell off, but I chalked it up to be being so late and being all alone when it was so dark out. It was an instant relief when I saw someone else waiting for the subway, a guy who was scrolling through his phone. He looked perfectly normal, not too tall, not too big, and I felt immediately more comfortable. I took a position a few feet away from him, so not to bother or intrude on whatever he was doing. The simple presence of another person was enough to soothe my worries. People are safer in groups, right? There was quite a bit of time before the next train was going to make it a stop, so I decided to walk around the platform a bit, looking at the different ads posted on the walls and the graffiti that was scattered here and there. I made sure not to wander too far from the center of the platform though, and made sure I was always directly under a light. I was only given a few moments of comfort before I began to hear it. Something. The sound is really hard to describe in words. It was almost like slapping something soft, like raw meat on something firm like stone. The sound would happen in pairs, slowly, methodically. Tuck, 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 tuck. It then stopped altogether. I looked over at the guy on his phone. He was looking over at me. We both realized that it was not the other person making that weird, almost fleshy sound. Did you? I don't remember him finishing the question all the way. I shook my head no, moving back to my original position, not too close to him, but just close enough. We both kind of looked around, unmoving from our rooted spots, trying to pinpoint the strange sound. It kind of sounded like weird clapping, like clapping on wood or something. I said after a moment, not wanting it to be silent again, so the strange and unsettling noise could resume. Probably some homeless person jacking it, he answered, shrugging, or at least I remembered him answering something like that. He went back to his phone. I looked down at my feet, waiting nervously. Any sense of relief I had before was replaced with a weird cold sensation, like icy fingernails dragging just below my skin, up my back, following my spine. It was discomfort at the unknown and a feeling of being watched. I could sense someone was looking at me. I casually looked over at the man, pretending as if I was looking towards the clock. He wasn't staring at me. He was absorbed in whatever he was doing on his phone. I looked the other direction only to find a completely empty hallway. That's when the noise started again, only faster. Tuck, 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 tuck. It was coming from the direction closest to the man. We both quietly looked over. The man pocketing his phone and stepping slightly closer to me. It wasn't an aggressive step, but rather a side step. He looked nervous. He let out a little laugh. "What is that?" he whispered. I didn't mind him being close to me. I was scared at this point, as the icy nails went from a low dragging to a piercing scratch. I kind of raised my hands in that weird way we all do when we are scared, almost reaching for my mouth to cover a scream, but also hovering my chest as if to grab my heart. A wave of terrible rot hit my nose, making me let out a little gag. The man had done the same thing, reaching his hands up and covering his mouth and nose. He turned to me, his eyes watering. He backed towards me closer, but again I didn't feel threatened by his presence. I think he was trying to escape the rank, but it was just as strong by me. Tuck, 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 tuck. I could see lights flickering off and back on down the hall from us, until a light about 20 feet away from where we were standing turned dark. It was finally close enough for us to see its silhouette. It stopped just short of being completely visible, hiding in the light that seemed to turn off as its mere presence. It looked wrong. It looked short, like it was holding itself by its arms. I could barely make out long, messy hair covering most of its head and shoulders. It couldn't see a face or any really distinctive features. Looking at it, though, made my blood run cold in my veins. "Are you lost?" it said. The voice sounded wrong in my ears. It was a woman's vocals, that was certain enough, but it sounded like it was layered with 1,000 other voices of different tones. Anger, pain, sadness, rage, grief. My ears couldn't make out all the different sounds. It hurt to think about. Who are you? Get out of here. We don't have any money. I'm glad the man yelled at it, because I don't think I could have managed anything less than a squeak. Are you lost? It repeated, only louder and angrier than before. The man backed up again, kind of holding his arm out in front of me. He was putting himself between whatever was in the darkness and me. He was protecting me, the fool. That's when the sound of the train began echoing from the tunnel, heading towards the direction of the figure and us. It took slow steps forward. Tuck, 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 getting closer and closer until the train pulled into the stop. The doors slid open with a quiet hiss and it screamed. It screamed so loud I can hear the echoes in my skull even now. It sprung at us, propelling itself forward with its arms. I flung myself into the train at the sight of it. Of her. It was a woman, her face distorted with pain and suffering and rot. The flesh of her face was peeling in places. Her eyes were milky white, empty. From what I could tell, she had nothing below her torso, just a bloody gash across her body, with gangrenous entrails sagging downwards from it. Blackened blood and decay oozing from the open wound and onto the cold concrete floor. I tried to grab at the man as I jumped into the car. Tried to reach out and grab his arm, to pull him into the train car with me, but I couldn't. He tried to turn and run into the car with me when I failed to reach him, but it was too late. I watched her jump onto him. I heard his cold curdling scream and I didn't do anything. I stood in the train car, my hands over my mouth, as the doors slid closed. I could have held my hand out, stopped the doors from closing together. I could have tried to help him, but I didn't. The lights on the platform and in the train car went out. It was unnatural darkness, a pure blackness I have never experienced before. I was stuck staring into the darkness, their mingled screams filling the air. I felt like I was drowning in their voices. It stung to breathe. The lights turned back on, flooding the train car and platform with unnatural white light. They were gone. Both of them were gone. I pressed myself against the glass door, looking vigorously for the man of her. As the train slid away, passing the platform, I could hear the noise again, soft, slow. Tuck, 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 tuck. I don't know what I saw on the subway platform. It had to have been a big prank. Something like, this doesn't happen in real life. I thought cameras would pop out of the rest of the train car and someone would yell, "Gotcha!" No one popped out though. I rode the train to my stop in silence. I couldn't even call the police. Not that I did once. I got home and had access to my phone. Would they even believe me? No one would believe me.